Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrata Kacharya Ashto Tarata Śrīmad Abhay Charanarvindam Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananda Kori Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Iskan Bibiti Sangstabhakacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Navadi Dham Ki Jai Ganga Maya Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Shrimadi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Shrimadi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yagna Ki Jai Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai Samveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Give me the machine back. You took it away. Put it here and took it away. Thank you. Is this your machine? Is this yours? Near Mama, nothing is mine. Oh, he has to scroll with this. I gotcha. So he's in charge of scrolling. So I can scroll it. Okay. You know, this way I don't need my glasses because it's a bigger print. Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, entitled The Lord of the Heart. Text number 19. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Itam munistu paramhed vyavastito. Itam munistu paramed vyavastito. Vijnana drigvirya suranditasya. Swaparshnina vidya gudam tato nilam. Staneshu satsun na maye jajita klamaha. Itam munistu paramed vivastito. Vijnana drigvirya surandistasya. Swaparshnina vipad gudam tato nilam. Staneshu satsun namadyej jita klamaha. Itam munistu paramed vivastito. Vijnana drigvirya surandhitasya. Swaparshnina bhitya gudam tato nilam. Staneshu satsuna mayej jita klamaha. Itam munastu paramedra vastito. Vijnana trigvirya suranditasya. Swaparshnina dvipad yugadam tato nilam. Staneshu satsunaya yeja jita saha klamaha. Anyone else? Itam munastu parame vivastito. Adrikya suranditasya. Raskana pidya gudam tato nilam. Ladies, itam, thus by Brahman realization, Munihi, the philosopher, tu, but, uparamet, should retire, vyavastitaha, well situated, vijnanadrik, by scientific knowledge, virya, strength, surandita, well regulated, ashaya, aim of life, swaparshnina, with the heel of one's foot, apidya, by blocking, gudam, the air hole, tataha, therefore, anilam, life air, staneshu, in the places, satsu, 6 primary, unamayet, must be lifted, ijitaklamaha, by extinguishing material desires. Translation: by strength of scientific knowledge, one should be well situated in absolute realization and thus be able to extinguish all material desires. One should give them up, one should then give up the material body by blocking the air hole through which stool is evacuated with the heel of one's foot, and by lifting the life air from one place to another in the 6 primary places. Purport. There are many Duratmas who claim to have realized themselves as Brahman, and yet are unable to conquer material desires. In the Bhagavad Gita 18.54, it is clearly explained that an absolutely self-realized soul becomes completely aloof from all material desires. Material desires are based on the false ego of the living entity and are exhibited by his childish and useless activities to conquer the laws of material nature by his desire to lord it over the resources of the 5 elements. With such a mentality, one is led to believe in the strength of material science, with its discovery of atomic energy and space travel by mechanical vehicles, and by such tiny achievements in the material science, the false egoist tries to challenge even the strength of the Supreme Lord, who can finish all man's tiny endeavors in less than a second. The well-situated self, or Brahman-realized soul, perfectly understands that the Supreme Brahman, or the personality of Godhead, is the all-powerful Vyasadeva, and that he, the self-realized living being, is a part and parcel of the Supreme Whole. As such, his constitutional position is to cooperate with him in all respects in the transcendental relation of the served and the servitor. Such a self-realized soul ceases to exhibit his useless activities of attempting to lord it over material nature. Being scientifically well informed, he fully engages himself in faithful devotion to the Lord. The expert yogi who has thoroughly practiced the control of the life air by the prescribed method of the yoga system is advised to quit the body as follows. He should plug up the evacuating hole with the heel of his foot and then progressively move the life air on and on to 6 places: the navel, the abdomen, heart, chest, palate, eyebrows, and cerebral pit. Controlling the life air by the prescribed yogic process is mechanical, and the practice is more or less a physical endeavor for spiritual perfection. In the olden days, such practice was very common for the transcendentalists, for the mode of life and character in those days were favorable. But in the modern days, when the influence of Kali age is so disturbing, practically everyone is untrained in this art of bodily exercise. Concentration of the mind is more easily attained in these days by the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. The results are more effective than those derived from the inner exercise of the life air. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, the situation is, Maharaja Pariksit has been cursed by a Brahmin boy to die within 7 days. And he's wondering what to do. So many sages and saintly persons came to advise the king. Do yoga, do meditation. Like that, they were giving advice. He only had said, Maharaj Pariksit was very powerful. If he wanted, he could have counteracted the curse of the Brahmin boy. The Brahmin boy's father was very upset. Even though he had been garlanded by a snake, he never minded that. He was more concerned that his son, who had some Brahmin tejas, had cursed the king to die. Because the king is so important in the management of the people, of the society. Unless you have a proper leader, then how the people will be proper? They'll all be misled. Andayandandayarupaniyamana. The blind person, he'll lead all the other blind persons, and what will happen? They'll fall in the ditch. They'll fall in the ditch. So that's what's happening today. The blind leaders, they're also not able to guide the blind populace in the right direction. So the father of the Brahmin boy was very disturbed that his son had cursed the king to die within 7 days. But Maharaja Pariksit accepted that curse, accepted his fate, and he wanted to know, he was inquisitive, now what is the duty, what is my duty, especially when death is coming so soon, what should I do? This is the proper question of life. This is the question everybody should be asking, right? People generally think, no, I'll be spiritual when I become old. When I'm about to die, then I'll become spiritual. But will they be able to become spiritual when they become old? No. When described in the Bhagavatam, when the teeth are loose and the life airs in the body are always creating some problem, right? Will one be able to, if not practice, to think of God, think of Krishna? Not be possible. In Bengali, Havina, Nehoga. I don't know what they say in Telugu. I only know 2 words in Telugu. Telugu Radu. In St. Louis, they have these, St. Louis University is just near the temple. You can throw a stone and hit the St. Louis University. So they have a master's degree course in information technology. And there's 2,000 students from Andhra and Telangana that are there taking that course. So I used to meet them in the street, and you can tell somebody who's from Andhra. He's from Andhra. I know he's from Andhra. And they're students, right? So I say, oh, you must be from Andhra Pradesh or Telangana. Yes. Where? No, Hyderabad. Oh, that's nice. There they speak Telugu, right? They say, yeah, we speak Telugu. I said, I know Telugu, 2 words. They said, what is that? Telugu Radu. And then they laugh. So, but now some of those students are coming to the temple and they're taking prasadam. Because where else they'll get, in Andhra they like lemon rice, tomato rice, dahi rice, and rice. So only they'll get in temple. So they're coming and doing some services. One devotee from Bombay is there in St. Louis, and he showed me that they're washing pots and doing other services in the temple. Because without that, there's no shelter in this material world except within the service of Krishna. This is what Sukadeva Goswami is telling. But here he's talking about you have to become situated in self-realization. And that means in order to do that, one has to become free from material desires. Our hearts are filled with all these desires for so many things in this material world. And the material energy is so clever. Prabhupada talks about it in the purport, is when we have these material desires, still you need to take shelter. You have to have faith. You have to have faith in something, you know. It's not that people don't have faith in God, but they have faith in something. Faith is there. You know, Prabhupada said they didn't go to the moon. So we have faith in that. But how do we know? We're laymen, but we have faith in what Prabhupada said. They didn't go to the moon. They have faith in the material scientists that they went to the moon, but they can't prove it, right? Can anybody prove that anybody went to the moon or disprove that they didn't? Of course, there's a book that came out. 28% of the population in the United States don't think they went to the moon. And one scientist was saying that they actually filmed everything in the Arizona desert, right? But mostly people have faith in the scientists. Why? Because they have so many material desires. They have to place their faith somewhere. You can't have so many material desires and place your faith in God, and they feel that, well, God didn't fulfill my desires. Prabhupada talks about how in the in the communist countries, the communists tell the people, okay, you praying to God for bread. Our Father who art in heaven, give us our daily bread. That's the Our Father prayer. And the Christians pray like that. So they're approaching God for bread. So the communists, they say, okay, go in your church and pray for bread. So they go in, Our Father who art in heaven, give us our daily. Then they come out, did you get bread? No, we didn't get bread. So they have a truckload of bread. Here, pray to us, the communist leaders, and take as much bread as you like. So in this way, the people are never asked, they never think, well, where did the communists get the bread? Right? That's because their brains are filled with cow dung, gober. They have no brains, right? So this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is there to give us intelligence. It's about the scientific knowledge of the absolute truth. And it is very detailed and very exact and very perfect. And so anyway, Sukadeva Goswami, he's describing this material process of raising the life airs, blocking the anus with your foot and bringing the life airs up. Right? And this is there, it's in the Vedic literatures. But is it possible in this age of Kali? People are not very much attuned to spiritual life. Previously, they were in other ages, in Satya Yuga and Treta Yuga, or even Dwapara Yuga. People had more, but things were dwindling, and now we've come to Kali Yuga. Shri Radha Madhava Gaur Nitai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai. Even Maharaja Pariksit was seeing that. It's stated that for the king to roam in his kingdom, it's very good. Very good. Because he can see what's going on. And while Maharaja Pariksit was one day roaming in his kingdom, he saw that there was this Shudra type person, and he was dressed as a king, and he was beating a cow. So Maharaj Pariksit didn't ask any questions. He just drew his sword and was going to cut the head off of this person. It was actually the personification of Kali. All right? And so this is real justice when you have a real qualified person in charge of the government. Nowadays, they would first of all make an FIR, then after making the FIR, they'll go to the court, and then the person will be arrested, and then the court case will go on for 20 years. You know? So where is the justice with that type of system? Justice delayed is justice denied. Whereas Maharaj Pariksit was immediately going to finish him, but he surrendered. Right? And he said, all right, I surrender, I'll do whatever you say. He said, get out of my kingdom. He said, but your kingdom is everywhere in the whole world. Where do I go? So because he had a surrendered mood, he said, okay, you can stay wherever there's illicit sex life, gambling, intoxication, and meat eating. He said, but my dear Lord, in your kingdom, these things don't exist. So Maharaja Pariksit thought, and he said, okay, you can stay wherever there is the hoarding of gold. So this is after the demise of Maharaja Pariksit, after he left this world, then Kali began to increase more and more. And these things were gradually introduced more and more. And you can see that these things increase every year. And when I first came to, I told this before, but when I first came to Bombay, maybe 40 years ago, they had these places in the city called permit rooms. Permit rooms. There weren't so many, but you could see permit rooms. So I asked, what's a permit room? So they explained that a permit room is where people go, and because that place has a permit, they can drink liquor there. Permit rooms. But now, today, if you go around Bombay, every corner, family restaurant and bar. Everywhere, it's everywhere. So what does that mean? It means people are drinking more. In those days, they were drinking less. People were kind of ashamed to drink, but now they're shameless, due to the effects of the Kali Yuga. Prayen alpa yusha sabhya kalavasmin yuge janaha mandasa manna mateo manda bhagya yupadutaha. They don't live very long, short lifespans. They advertise that they're increasing the lifespan, but actually it's getting shorter. And they're not very much interested in spiritual life, Bhagavatam says. If you go out on book distribution, you'll see people, no. Out of 100 people you approach, how many are interested, right? One or two. So that Manushanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam apisiddhanam kaschinmam viditattataha. Out of many thousands. But previously it wasn't like that. People were interested and they were inquisitive how to solve the real problems of life. But now people feel the real problem of life is the bread problem. So they're praying to God for bread. It's like going to a king. It's like going to a king and the king says, okay, you can take from me whatever you like. Take whatever you want. So the person that's going to the king says, can you give me 50 paisa? Well, such a foolish thing to ask for. The king can give you so many things, but you're asking for 50 paisa. In the same way, people come to the temple. They come before the Lord and they're asking, my dear Lord, help me pass the test. Help me marry my daughter. Help my business to increase. All insignificant things, right? Instead of asking for something tangible, like, how do I get out of this material world? Please help me, my dear Lord, to become attracted to you. And this is what Sukadeva Goswami is explaining to Maharaja Pariksit, that it's the attraction. Notice the point. No material desires. Extinguish all material desires. This is the point. If you have extinguished all material desires, then this mechanical process of lifting the life airs will work, right? But what's the prerequisite? No more material desires, okay? So, as Prabhupada explains, in this age, because people are not so accustomed to these type of things, this mechanical process won't work, and specifically because we are filled with material desires. There's so many material desires, right? Some are okay material desires, like, wealth, and some are very obscene material desires, but all are material desires. And so how to get rid of material desires? And Prabhupada explains in the end of the purport that, let me just read it again. concentration of the mind is more easily attained in these days by chanting the holy name of the Lord. The results are more effective than those derived from the inner exercise of the life air. And, we have Yoga Day, all over the world. There's one day they call Yoga Day. People are performing yoga, right? But they have no idea what's the purpose of yoga, right? Becoming free from material desires is the purpose of yoga. And become in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the purpose of yoga. But people are performing yoga for all material purposes. They want to get rid of their diabetes. There's one Maharaj, he has big yoga camps, and he says, you do Kalpabhati and you'll get rid of your diabetes. You do Anuloma Niloma and then you'll get rid of this disease or that disease, right? That's the purpose of yoga. That's why they're performing yoga. Huh? And by that practice, Kalpabhati or Anuloma Niloma or Udarn Band, will they become free from their material desires? No. Therefore, the process in this age is Harinam Sankirtan. Right? In the early days of living in the temple, if the devotees left the temple, it's like they would say they blooped. They blooped. And that's because Prabhupada described that when the living entity goes into the material world, he created a sound. It's just bloop, went back into the bloop. So the devotees picked up to that. If you go to the temple, he blooped. He blooped. Right? And in America, outside the temple, there was just no possibility you were going to become Krishna conscious, right? So either you were in the temple, either struggling or trying to become Krishna conscious, or you were blooped, you were outside. So actually it's a fact, because in association with devotees, performing the sadhana bhakti, rising early in the morning and chanting the holy name, kirtan, chanting japa, hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it's a all-encompassing program. Is anyone going to be able to do that on their own outside the temple? Huh? Does anyone think that they'll, on their own get up, on their own worship the Lord, on their own see such a nicely, beautifully dressed deity? Huh? Make nice prasadam every day on your own? Halava, puris, and sweet rice, and so many. You're not going to do that. Right? It takes association. It takes like-minded persons together as a group. Right? They can do. Supporting each other and encouraging each other. Right? Then it's possible to perform bhakti. And by performance of bhakti, gradually, we become free from our material desires. Brahma bhuta prasantatma na sochati na kanchati. Samasaveshe bhuteshu madbhaktim lavate param. In the material world, they're filled with kanchati and sochati, hankering and lamenting. Hankering for what they don't have, right? And they see the advertisements of the cars, and they maybe have a Maruti, and they want to have a Mercedes. Right? They're hankering. It's hankering. What difference does it make? You have to go from point A to point B. Whether you're in a, Maruti 800, which they don't make anymore, or you're in a Mercedes, you just got to get from point A to point B, right? One costs maybe $1.5 lakh nowadays for a Maruti 800. The other one costs 50 or 60 lakhs. But it's all an egotistical imagination of the mind that, oh, I'm in a Mercedes. So you became Mercedes, huh? Or you became Maruti. What is that? Mind. The egotistical, Prabhupada says, imagination. They conjure up all these things of higher status, lower status. Someone is born as a Shudra, or someone is born as a Brahmin, right? And the Brahmin thinking, I'm high class, and the Shudra's low class, right? Whereas it may be something very different. Someone born in a family of a Shudra can be chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. And the Brahmin, he may be wearing Brahmin's thread and pulling the rickshaw. I see, right? They're Brahmin thread, they're doing rickshaw. Right? They're not performing the activities of Brahmin. They don't have the qualities of a Brahmin. So how are they Brahmin? Just they're thinking by birth, I became Brahmin. Anybody can become a Brahmin. Doesn't matter. One has to have, what does Krishna say? Chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagashaha. One should have the qualities of a Brahmin. One should perform the activities of a Brahmin. Right? Not that, he doesn't say anywhere that by birth you become a Brahmin. Yes, society requires Brahmins. Just like the head of the body is so important. Without the head, the body is finished. So in the social structure of the body, there's the intelligent class compared to the head. There's the Kshatriya class compared to the arms that protect. If somebody comes to beat you, they go like this. What's your first reaction? You put your arms up, right? Kshatriya protects the arms. And the belly is compared to the Vaishyas, and the Shudras are compared to the legs, right? It's a very practical thing, right? All the different orders are there. It's not by birth, it's by one's qualities and one's activities. So it's so important today that we create some intelligent class of men so that they can guide society, just like the head guides the body. It has the eyes, it has the sensory perception. So intelligent class of men, they can understand what is to be done and what is not to be done. They don't become, their intelligence doesn't become diverted by so many ideas for sense gratification. This is the point. Without that, without a proper head of society, without a Brahminical class, and not a so-called Brahminical class, but practicing Brahminical class, then society is destined to be on the platform of just animals. Right? Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. So in any event, here Maharaja Pariksit is being guided by Sukadeva Goswami. Okay, this is what you do. But we should know it's not a mechanical process. It's a spiritual process. And that spiritual process is to become free from material desires. And that can be done in this age by the process of the holy name, chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram. And all the things that we do, elaborate deity worship and other services that we perform, are to facilitate that chanting. And to give, our temples are established to give other people an opportunity to hear about Krishna, so that they can come to the conclusion that, yes, I should chant the holy name of the Lord. This is the purpose of our Krishna consciousness movement. And Srila Prabhupada started this movement with a great effort and endeavor, and the responsibility is on us to see that the movement continues and that we don't become bewildered by some other idea than what Srila Prabhupada has given us. And if we stick to the standard programs, read Srila Prabhupada's books and try to understand them carefully, then this movement will go on. And Prabhupada said that this movement will be known one day, will go down in history as the movement that saved the world. The world is in a very precarious position. The leaders are all demons. Don't be fooled. They're all demons. They're all promising the public sense gratification, and they're not be able to deliver because sense gratification, there's no end. And nobody became satisfied by sense gratification. So when the government is promising sense gratification, and the foolish public gives them the vote, right? And then they're not able to satisfy their sense gratification, which no one is ever satisfied by sense gratification, then what happens? They throw that one out and put some other rascal there. Right? So this is continuously going on. But who's there to guide the people? What to do, what not to do? That responsibility is on all of you, all of us, to become Krishna conscious and to help other people become Krishna conscious. Just like Maharaja Pariksit is wondering, what should I do? Now I only have 7 days left. So there's people there that are wondering, what is the purpose of this life? They're asking that question. And the Krishna conscious members of the Krishna consciousness movement have to be there at that point when they're asking that question so they can answer it. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions? Comments? No questions? Everybody agrees? Maybe I spoke a little fast. People don't understand. You know, yet from yesterday's verse, Prabhupada's purport, he talks about how a pure devotee thinks. Pure devotees of the Lord are absolutely in harmony with the personality of Godhead. And what does that mean? That means they always think of the Lord as their only dependable friend and well-wisher. Right? Now, we can judge our Krishna consciousness by how much we think that Krishna is our only dependable friend. Right? How much am I convinced that Krishna is there and Krishna is my friend? Right? Krishna, you know, people usually, they go to their friends when they want some advice, they want some help, they need a loan. Who do they go to? They go to their friends, right? So for a pure devotee, he knows his, you know what Prabhupada said about that? Interesting. He said, I am your friend because I'm telling you Krishna is your only friend. Krishna is our only friend. I don't have another friend, right? I may think I have friends, but I really don't have any friends. They're called fair weather friends. Right? You know what fair weather friends means? That as long as the times are good, they're with you. Your quote-unquote friends. But when the times go bad, they're busy with something else. But Krishna's not like that. He's not a fair-weathered friend. Krishna's with you in the good times. Krishna's with you also in the bad times. But you know what the problem is? We don't pay any attention to Krishna. He's right there in our heart. This chapter is called The Lord in the Heart. Are we convinced that Krishna is within our hearts? That He's there? He's ready to help us. Not so convinced. How to become convinced? When Srila Prabhupada called all the GBCs for a meeting, and they all sat down, and Prabhupada sat there, and first question he asked them, so, are you convinced? Are you convinced? Are we? Are we convinced? Right? Krishna's God. Right? Krishna is my only friend, my most dependable friend. That's what Prabhupada said. Well, I can tell you, we're not. We got a long ways to go. And some of the problems with that is we've gotten so much conditioning from this life and previous lives, and Prabhupada goes over some of the Maya that's there. We think that there's so much advertising. You can become God. You do meditation, you become God, right? And they have so many false gods. Prabhupada said there's one Bhagavan on every block. Some people get together and Bhagavan Rajneesh, Bhagavan this, Bhagavan that, right? And they show some magic, There was one Bhagavan, he used to have a Shiva Linga come out of his mouth. And the people thought, oh, Bhagavan. So foolish. And if anybody's a devotee, even if you're a devotee of Lord Shiva, would you put Lord Shiva in your mouth? Huh? So muchi? Huh? But it was a trick. And the way it did, he had a glass of water, and he would drink the water, right? And then he would take a cloth to wipe his mouth. But when he was wiping his mouth, that's time he would put the linga in his mouth. It was a sleight of hand. Nobody noticed it. And so then all of a sudden he was like, something was coming out of him or something. And Shiva Linga. But somebody else who is a sleight of hand artist, he knew the trick. And he described this is how he did it. And he showed the video of the so-called Bhagavan, right? First he showed the video, then he showed how the trick was done, and then he showed the video again. And then people could see, wait a minute, he's not Bhagavan, he's just a sleight of hand artist, that's all. Right? But yet people are so foolish. Hey, Bhagavan, become. Therefore, Krishna, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he showed his universal form to Arjuna, so that in the future, people, if they want to claim to be Bhagavan, then okay, show your universal form. They can't do that, but Krishna did. Or they say everything is one. It's all one. It's all one. Oneness, right? Whether you're eating meat or you're not eating meat or having illicit sex or not, it's all one. It's Leela, it's pastimes. Nonsense. We're so conditioned to hear all this nonsense. In the early days, Giriraj Swami was out doing book distribution, right? So this one boy that he was preaching to, he was saying, well, it's all one. It's all one. Whether you chant, you don't chant, it's all one. So Giriraj Swami told him, well, are you sure that it's all one? Doesn't matter. No, it's all one. It's all one. He said, okay. Then if it's all one, and whatever money's in your wallet, it doesn't matter if it's all one, whether it's in your wallet or it's with me. So if it's really all one, then you give me all your money. So that guy was so foolish and was so proud and egotistical, he gave all his money to Giriraj. Just to show it's all one. So there's so many foolish understandings, and Prabhupada so kindly has given us in his purports explanations of all this Maya, that there is no God, or the living entities are God, or God has God who incarnates as a material body. So all of these things we have to get beyond and understand their falsity, and we can do that by this process that we're doing of chanting and staying in association with devotees, performing the Sankirtan Yajna, worshiping the deity in the temple, hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, so that our consciousness and our will be strong, filled with what Prabhupada calls here the strength of scientific knowledge, real knowledge, and help us to be realized, and that means to accept that we're the eternal servants of Krishna, and in that way gradually become free from material desires, so that ultimately we'll go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
So, you gave a very nice class. Thank you so much for that. In Juhu, I used to hear every Mangalarti, your name is announced for the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam sets and Bhagavad Gitas. Can you please tell us? We also want to distribute Bhagavatam sets for Bhadra Purnima. Can you please tell us some points how we can?
Well, I think the main thing is chant your rounds nicely, be strict in your sadhana, and make an effort. If you don't have those two things in line, then certainly you won't be able to sell any books. You won't be able to distribute any books. But if we do those things, then Krishna will enlighten us. Make the effort, and Krishna will reciprocate. That's the main thing. And there may be so many different ways. We can go to our friends. We can go to them and request them to donate a set, because the 12th canto Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam says that if you distribute a Bhagavatam set on the Bhadra Purnima, actually it's any Purnima in the Padma Puran, but in the Bhagavatam it says Bhadra Purnima. But in the Padma Puran it says any Purnima that you donate a set, you'll get the supreme destination. So people like that, we can tell people, donate this set, you'll be eternally benefited, explain to them their benefit. And people have this idea to help people in the villages. So we can tell them that people in the village, they already live very simply. But they just need the high thinking, right? Simple living and high thinking. And that high thinking is Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So we can ask people to give a Bhagavatam set so that we can make it available to the people in the village and they can perfect their lives. You know how many villages there are in India? About 800,000 or something like this. A lot of villages, you know. So you can imagine if we put one set in every village, whether it's Telugu or Hindi or Marathi, Gujarati, that's a lot of sets. And devotees go to the Gaon Panchayat and preach to them a little bit and get them to make the set available in some common place. Either the Gaon Panchayat office, or they might have a reading room, or even some villages have a library, so people can go there and read the Bhagavatam. Explaining to people that can afford it to donate a set to help the villagers. The government has so many programs to help villagers, but it really doesn't help them. You know, the real help they need is to understand the message that's there in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So that's one scheme that you can do, and there may be so many others that can help us to distribute Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Is that okay? Hare Krishna. I seen your video of distributing books at the stoplight. Have you ever done any sets at the stoplight? Sets at the stoplight. It's a little tough to sell a set at the stoplight. Wow. That's good. Some devotees get the card and then meet them later. You know, they took a small book or a Gita and then meet them later and try and sell them a Bhagavatam set. When you make a life member, do you give them the Bhagavatam set? Okay, good. That's good. Prabhupada said you go into, you know, a big man's office and you put the box and you open up the books and you let people and you let them see the books and talk about the books and then go away and then come back the next day and they'll take it, Prabhupada said. Now, some of them may object, say, well, you know, I don't have any room in my house. I don't have any room in my house. So you can say, okay, then you take the Transcend app because you can keep everything in your cell phone, right? That's another way we can. And in the month of August, there's some change in the app so that, you know, individually temples and distributors can, you know, distribute on the spot the app. So then they'll have all the books in audio and all the books in ebook form right on their cell phone. Right? The authorized edition of the ebooks. Any other questions? As soon as you talk about apps, everybody gets interested, you know. Everybody's used to working with apps. So here's an app, the Transcend app. 80 volumes of books. English is only 7,000 rupees. That works out to 87 rupees and 50 paisa per book. It's cheap, very cheap. These books can really help a person in a time of need. One person was about to commit suicide, and this happened in Hong Kong. And a devotee came to the door just before they were going to commit suicide and convinced that person to buy a book. And after the devotee left, the person began to read it, and that person's whole life changed. And they became very positive about life instead of trying to end their life. So you can see such a powerful impact that reading Srila Prabhupada's books can have on a person. So that's a good reason to go out and try and distribute the books. Right? Okay. Any other questions? All right, it's 9:06. Thank you very much for listening. Hare Krishna.